And here I'm talking to you, the Security Council. What are you going to do in order to stop this lunatic from continuing this genocidal war against the Palestinian people? Mr. President, allow me at the outset to express our appreciation for Your Excellency's decision to take part and to chair this meeting at ministerial level, and to the Chief de Cabinet of the Secretary General for his briefing. Mr. President, there is an old Greek proverb that says, and I quote, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." End of quotation. This is the international law-based order put in place by those who endured or witnessed the worst tragedies, tree by tree, to provide shade to future generations. Israel has uprooted every one of those trees in Gaza. It breached every rule ever elaborated, every principle humanity pledged to uphold. It killed those most entitled to protection, civilians, including children, humanitarians, doctors, journalists. It defied every nation on earth and every organ ever set up to uphold the most fundamental rules, from the highest political organs to the highest judicial body, from the Security Council and the General Assembly to the ICJ. Israel is doing so unapologetically. It is committing crimes openly, brazenly, and repeatedly. Its own soldiers do not hesitate to share recordings of those crimes with the rest of the world. What is happening in Gaza will go down as the most documented genocide in history. Till when will the world denounce the crimes and tolerate their reoccurrence? Till when will it consider that its responsibility is to state the law instead of upholding it? Palestinians in Gaza do not need to hear the world talk about the uprooted trees. They need their protective shade. They could care less that we all agree on what the rules say and that we all observe and recognize their breach. What is a rule that is not enforced? What do these rules mean anymore when for 9 months Israel has bombed the homes, the hospitals, the schools, including those designated as UN shelter, and now is bombing people in tents, as the case in the Mawasi? How cruel could you be? How criminal must you be to bomb the same population over and over and over again? And since bombs and bullets are not good enough in this collective punishment and genocide enterprise, Israel has decided to impose the most horrific conditions on those who survive. We have seen Israel, for months now, manufacture a humanitarian catastrophe with famine at its core. We have seen it yield starvation, dehydration, and the spread of diseases as the ultimate weapons. 2 million people who were subjected to a 17-year-old blockade are now confronted with a hermetic siege, dying of hunger and disease, while food and medicine are available only meters away. Until now, Israel considered it was enough to shout security to get away with the worst crimes imaginable, as if its security could legitimize genocide, colonization, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, as if its security could justify denying the most fundamental rights of a nation and the most basic rights of millions of Palestinians, as if its security could be achieved by more killing and more injustice. It pretended The blockade was about security. It only harmed innocent civilians. It pretended its walls and military rules were about security. Their true colonial nature is evident to all those willing to see. It pretended that every war would be the last and would achieve deterrence. It simply laid the seeds for another war a few years later. Since 1948, successive Israeli governments have said they got rid of the Palestinian problem once and for all. Since the Nakba, which constituted one of the most terrible attempts to uproot an entire nation in modern history. After that, Israeli leaders pretended they never heard of Palestine or the Palestinians, denying the very existence of the people they had killed and expelled. In 1967, they were certain that by occupying whatever was left of the land of historic Palestine, they had eliminated the problem altogether. In 1982, they explained that if they invaded Lebanon and forced the PLO to move far away from Palestine's borders, this would be the end of the Palestine question. In 1988, when the Palestinian rebellion erupted in Palestine itself in a peaceful way, it explained that breaking the bones of the demonstrators, literally breaking them, would deter them. In 2000, it explained that the best way to deal with the second intifada was more walls, more oppression, more occupation. In 2008, 2009, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018, 2021, and 2022, it explained that a blockade over 2 million people and repeated military assaults and shooting on demonstrators would eventually lead to subjugation and surrender. A century of military responses to a political question, a century of sheer violence against an entire nation to avoid the only solution possible, freedom for the Palestinian people and peace for all. But there is a reason Israel behaves this way. Everything in its history tells it it will get away with it. It is betting this time will be no exception. But this time must be the exception. And change must start right now. Mr. President, this Security Council adopted Resolution 2735 to achieve an immediate ceasefire leading to a permanent cessation of hostilities. This would not restore the lives of those killed or the limbs of those amputated. It would not remove the pain from a mother's heart or the fear haunting a child's mind, but it would save lives and stop agony's march. It would lead to the release of hostages and prisoners on both sides. It would allow a surge in humanitarian aid. It would lead to immediate regional de-escalation. It would help preserve whatever faith is left in our multilateral system. But Netanyahu does not care about Palestinian lives or even the hostages' life. He does not care about international law or human decency. He only cares about his own political survival. So what will you do to ensure he is not the one calling the shots? And here I'm talking to you, the Security Council. What are you going to do in order to stop this lunatic from continuing this genocidal war against the Palestinian people? Mr. President, in recent weeks, there were collective statements stressing that ICJ decisions are binding and must be respected, defending the independence of the ICC and rejecting attacks against it. There were shared commitments on UNRWA to which all Council members, present and incoming, subscribe together with over 100 countries around the world. There is a global consensus in support of the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and a two-state solution in line with UN resolutions and international law. There is more convergence on the Palestine question than on any other matter on the international agenda. And there is one isolated, fanatic government rejecting this international consensus and attacking every institution entrusted with upholding the international law-based order, accusing its representatives of this order of terrorism and anti-Semitism, killing, detaining, torturing, harassing, intimidating them. Till when will we pretend this government is anything else than what it proclaims to be? Till when its whims will trump international will? Mr. President, our people will live in freedom and dignity on their ancestral land. They will accept nothing less. They will accept nothing else. But fulfilling this right should not come at a price. There is a parallel world in which the international community upheld the rules, in which all nations gathered and took concrete steps to ensure compliance and deter violations, to stop the war and advance peace, where no Palestinian civilian and no Israeli civilian, no Palestinian child and no Israeli child are harmed, where life has prevailed, where two states, Palestine and Israel, live side by side in peace and security, where Palestine is free and future generations take for granted the peace we have achieved, where historians work together to tell the story of our painful journeys with honesty and respect, where mutual recognition is self-evident, where shared humanity is recognized, where no one denies the existence of the other, or discriminates against the other, or denigrates the other, where our region has unleashed its full potential as our destinies no longer collide but move forward together. Being killed, maimed, oppressed, detained, starved, displaced is not our fate. There is a path that leads to shared peace and prosperity. It is your duty to take every step necessary to reach that destination. Start today. Strengthen those who seek peace rather than arm those who seek extermination. Sanction those who colonize rather than allowing them to punish those who oppose the uprooting and displacement of communities. Protect the victims rather than the perpetrators. Recognize the state of Palestine rather than witness the destruction of the two-state solution. Render your relations with the parties subject to their compliance with the law and the legitimate requirements of peace. Achieve the well-known solution to this political conflict by ending the Israeli occupation, and don't wait till it is transformed into a never-ending religious war. In 2 days, the highest judicial body on earth will render its authoritative opinion on the question of Palestine and on the illegality of the colonial annexationist and supremacist Israeli occupation. I'm referring to the International Court of Justice. This expression of the law should serve as basis for our collective action in the days to come. The law, nothing less, nothing else. All your nations refuse to forego their rights. The Palestinian people will never accept to relinquish theirs. Peace will not be achieved at the expense of our rights, but by upholding them. The right to life, to liberty, and to dignity. That is the only path to peace. Let us finally, collectively, embark on that journey. And thank you very much, Mr. President.